AM 970 WSTX.
We have an author in the house. An author who writes things that I love to read, watching the movies, and otherwise get into these sequels and all this other good stuff. Yeah. Okay, everybody wondering, what is it that Doug likes to read and watch on TV and whatever? Well, we're going to get to that in a minute. I'm going to leave you in suspense. So with no further ado, I want to welcome to my studios NA Barber, otherwise Nancy A. Barber. What was your journey to becoming a writer? Because sometimes something people might do from the time they're a child, and some people at 67, all of a sudden they have an epiphany and they write a book or two or three. What was your journey like? Tell us introduce yourself, tell us about you and that journey.
Okay, my name is Nancy Barber, and I met Doug just the other day, and he was very interested in what I was doing, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you very much. And I wanted to explain about how I came around to writing this book. When I was a little girl, my mother says that as soon as I could talk, I was telling her stories, fantastical stories. And of course, I don't remember that. And then you get older, you start moving around, you meet different people, you go different places, and you're storing all those things in your head. And people tell you to write what you know. They're not telling you to write your life story. They're telling you to write the things you've learned or picked up into your book. And so, we all get busy, you go to school, you get married. And my husband and I moved here because we'd gotten to that point in our lives when we wanted to slow down a bit and relax and let him enjoy life as well as myself. And I had forgotten about the stories. I have a degree in English, I've gotten a graduate degree, but I didn't write for pleasure. And we got here, and 2 months later, I had this dream. And I woke up, and it was as though I had been in the dream, like living it. And for 2 months, I walked around seeing things in the perspective of that dream. Because, so-and-so would think this about this situation, and so-and-so would think that. And I realized, I better write this down because it may not be right there with me all the time. At 2 months, I woke up, and it was gone. I'm completely gone. It was this, and I felt it as soon as I woke up. I thought, it's not there anymore. It was like a friend. And I had written everything down, and I thought, okay, I need to write this book. It was so significant and so real that I needed to write this book. And I talked to a couple of friends about it, and one of my friends, Deborah, hello, Deborah, she was like, okay, you have to do this. This is something that I would want to read. So I started writing my book. And when you think about the dynamic of putting a story down on paper, people will tell you, oh, you have to learn this and you have to learn that. Well, you don't. You need to find something that resonates with you. What seems practical in your mind, a way of thinking that agrees with you. So I got on the internet and I was looking at Katie Tastic on YouTube, and she has a structure. And I thought, okay, this works. So I plugged my story in on a sheet of paper. And when I could see the whole story on that sheet of paper, I thought, now I just need to tell the story. And that's what I did. Fantastic.
And chances are for everyone it's different in some way. And it's also the thing here is that folks, it can happen anytime.
It can.
It can. The inspiration can be there in younger years. It can be there in elder years. It could be there in between years. The important thing is to act on the inspiration.
Yes, exactly.
And you talked about the dream and how it was all gone. And sometimes, as I recall, you have a dream, and it'd be interesting, and then you get up to discuss it with someone, but the longer the time passes, the less you can remember and recount what took place in the dream. So definitely. So we've got a book here, and we're going to be having a book signing in the not too distant future.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's talk about this book. It's called Resonant Frequencies, a time travel thriller.
Yes.
By NA Barber. All right.
Well, the book starts out with a young woman named Phoebe, and she doesn't really know her past, but she knows what she wants. She wants to get out of LA. She needs to get out of the orphan's home she's been in, and she has a plan. She's going to go to Europe, live her life, figure things out, and be free. Be free of all the restrictions that she's had since her mother left 10 years ago. Her mother just disappeared, and she ends up in this girl's home. But she has a couple of things that she has to do before she leaves, and she goes to a party. And she hears something at this party that makes her think that someone is after her or something. And so she sets into motion a plan to evade, but she can't get away. No matter what she does, she can't get away. And then, instead of catching her, they catch someone else, 2 other people. And she can't just, leave now and let those 2 other women, suffer the fate that she was going to suffer. So she's got to go find them. And the journey is not pleasant, but when she gets there, she's thinking, okay, I've got a handle on this. We're going to get y'all out, and we're going to leave. But something happens. She's underground, in an underground facility for the government and some rich investors, and something happens on the surface of the world. And it's so cataclysmic, she can't go back up. So now she's trapped down here with these people who don't know who she is yet. But they want her. They don't know it yet, but they want her. So she's got to go to different places in time to placate them and figure out what she needs to know and do to stop what happened. And that's where she gets into a lot of trouble.
All right. I like that description. I like that description. Wow. I mean, every step of the way, just when you think you figured it out, boom.
Yes. Yes.
All right. That's the kind of book that you don't put down. And I like that kind of a book. Wow. Every time you turn around, there's something new and different. And, in some ways, TV is trying to capture that. But there's just no competition. You can be my partner, but you can't compete with what a book and imagination does. We don't have enough technology to be able to recreate what the mind can envision.
And what the book is supposed to do is not give you every detail. The book is supposed to leave just enough to your own imagination where Phoebe can look however you want her to look.
All right.
And the other characters look and act the way you want them to look. So it's your own movie. When I write my book, I guess when I was dreaming, I remembered a lot, but I didn't remember all the very minute details. So when I sit down to write, it's like a film playing in my head, and I'm just typing. The characters mostly name themselves. And I didn't know what Phoebe's middle name was until somebody yelled it at her. You know how when you're in trouble, someone yells your whole name? And so all these different things happen, and I can hear and see what they're doing, but I can also hear in my head what they're thinking. So the book progresses, and occasionally I'd have something that was supposed to happen, and the characters did something else completely. And it surprised me. But at the end of the book, it still ended up where it was supposed to be, so I guess they knew better than I did. Yeah. But the details in the book, some people are like, oh, I want more description here, I want more description here. But you're supposed to fill in what you want to be there. So it's an individual journey for everyone. And that's what's so thrilling about it. Because you get worked up about the book as much as you want to. And so you participate. And in a movie, you're just sitting there watching. You can't change anything. You can't do anything.
Well, we're going to come back to the book a little bit more. But because really everything here involves this book. But I understand that there's an event coming up with respect to this book. Tell me what
there's
we have
a book
in store.
signing at Undercover Books here in Gallows Bay, and it's on February 23rd. And we'll have hors d'oeuvres and wine and water and juice and good conversation. And we invite people to come to Undercover Books at any time. They're wonderful people. They have a book club. It's second or third Tuesday every month. And they also have a children's group on Saturday mornings. So you can call Undercover Books and find out more about that. But they do a great deal for the community. And whenever they have an author who's local or lives here at least part-time, that comes in and says, I have a new book, will you carry it for me? They not only have a section for that, but they'll do these book signings so the community can meet other people on the island who have talents, just the way you have the art shows on Thursdays, and then you have the jump ups in town, so people can meet the different vendors. So the bookstore is really invested in the community in this way, as well as invested in people like me, who they're hoping to feature my book.
Well, I can tell you, my young man knows where Undercover Books is. Not necessarily for the same reason as why they're there, but because Santa Claus resides there for a certain period of time.
I heard that.
Okay?
I heard that. I'm
a
supposed
lot
to
of
stay
young
out of the
people
way.
know where Undercover Books is, but the more important thing is that we as parents have to make sure that we cultivate this habit of reading, because there's so much distraction, visual distraction, to say that is instant gratification from video games to TV, that we really have to go that extra mile. So on the 23rd of February, we're going to be having a book signing.
Yes.
All right, fantastic. So one of the things you do in the meantime, make your rounds and let everybody know, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the process, so people come out. You know, if we had to say a genre for your book, science fiction would be the genre.
That's correct.
for
Time
the book.
travel, yes.
Okay, and I am a science fiction junkie. Okay.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
You didn't hear that, folks. It's a big secret. Okay. I mean, I am a Star Trek fan from day one, and you know, then we go on to other things that are out there. Some of the not so gory ones like Alien and Predator and that type of stuff, whatever. That's kind of way out there, but there's a lot of room for this type of adventure.
It is an adventure,
and especially with in the context of time travel. There are a few stories that I've been into. There's Time Cop. There's Time Traveler's Wife. You know, I could talk about a few, and in terms of movies, I got a stack of them. So, and you know, that's now we've got Netflix, and you know, I have Netflix, but what do I use in Netflix? A science fiction section. So I love science fiction, but the bottom line, though, folks, is you've got to take your children to the bookstore, get them a book, have them read the book, let them tell you how they like the book, what they liked, didn't like, that type of thing, because they're feeling their way as to what they like in terms of the written word.
Yes, exactly.
And it's important that they make the journey of deciding what they like, as opposed to never making the journey at all, because we handicap our children if we don't really introduce them to reading and promote it in our households. But you know, I'm talking there about the younger children. You got the big children like Doug, okay? So if you got one of those in your house, drag them down to the bookstore with you too. Let them rediscover that books are there, because sometimes between cutting the grass and fixing the table and fixing the closet and all these other things and being involved in the community organizations, it's like the time for the book kind of
gets pushed to the side.
Pushed to the side, and they need to be reminded that, hey, there's time for the book. Just make the time, decide that it's the time, and do it. Yeah. All right. Now, I just curious, who did the artwork for your book cover?
The artwork for the book cover was done by a person on Fiverr.com. I had gotten all kinds of $1,000 estimates for a book cover, which I just couldn't do. And so I went on there, and the person promised me a good book cover, and it's pro book cover at Fiverr.com. And the person does excellent work. They don't allow you to get personal. You know, it's an internet service, but the work was excellent. Any changes I needed. When we came to print the book, Pro Book Cover had to go in and do bleed for the printing of it, and everything was top notch, and it worked out. And I've actually seen the book in print, and I was pretty impressed with the artwork. All
right, fantastic. Well, I like the artwork. It really carries the message of the time travel, the spiritual aspect of it,
That's exactly
the
it.
transcending, it really carries it well in
Thank
that
you.
sense. All right, and I'm sure that your family is happy to see you around, smiling. They say, "Aha, the book is done. Things are
Yes,
moving
the book is
forward." All
done.
right, okay.
Now I can get back to writing this next one.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, that's you got to do what you love.
Yes,
That's
you
the
do.
important thing. You got to do what you love. And I say that I'll just kind of stick this in as an aside, is that we have this tendency sometimes to kind of figure, okay, I've got to get everything just right, and then I can do this.
Yes.
It's like I have these lime tree in a pot now for how long, and I'm saying, oh my goodness, I just gotta stick them in the ground because the one I did is full grown and giving me limes. Imagine if I had put the others in the
Others in
ground.
there, yes.
And it's the same thing with writing or anything else important. There are ways that we as human beings, I think it's part of the human condition, that we
Yes.
kind of find ways to say that it must be orderly, it must be this way, and somehow we put off things that we can do now just because we've convinced ourselves. So I'm so glad that you're making that journey and moving forward and doing
you.
what you have to do now. All right? Yeah, it's I have to read this book, okay? Because a lot of times you see a book and it's about something you like, but it's somebody just out there. But now it's science fiction and it's here.
Yes,
so
it's
I
here.
have to get a copy of that book. Okay, hopefully I can make the signing and get it signed one time.
Well, I hope
but
so too.
I know how to find the author, so if I miss the signing, I can get it done that way. Yes, and Undercover Books is right across the street from where we are here in the studio, right next to the bistro, so you can have your cappuccino or your sandwich or whatever and sit down and start reading your book, and then
Yes.
take it home and finish it up, or take it to the beach and finish it up. And I say this sometimes, folks just don't think that some things are the way you do it is so different. But every day when I'm driving up the bypass for the past week, when I turn and look out toward the Caribbean Sea, there's the outline, St. Thomas, St. John, Tortola, all the way over, and there is this nice blue-green water, a few boats here and there, the seaplane every now and then. What better place to just take your folding chair, flip it out, one of those with a
Yes,
cover,
that's
sit
exactly
there, read your book, and enjoy the view. Hey, it's not just for walking.
No, it's and you do need to replenish what's in your head. People think, oh, I'm tired from work, I'm mentally worn out, I can't read a book. The book is going to let your brain relax and follow its own path instead of the path that it was on, from 8 o'clock to 5.
Well, we're going to come back and continue with that. We're going to take a quick break here, and then we'll come back and talk about the book some more.
Okay.
All right.
This is AM 970 WSTX.
All right, yeah, we're back. WSTX AM 970. And folks, we've got Nancy NA Barber in the house, talking about Resonant Frequencies, a time travel thriller. All right. And we've got so many books available to our young people. One of the things that's happening is that in my house, I have a lot of books, and some of them by age or whatever, I've got to recycle those books back into circulation.
Yes.
Because sitting on your shelf in your face, it's nice for those who want to collect books and feel more comfortable because they're surrounded by books. That's fine. And that's not where I'm at. I know that if younger eyes aren't looking at these books and extrapolating and getting something out of them, then it's missing the whole purpose in that sense. So I have to repurpose those books, and I'm looking forward to doing that. I might even use this platform a little bit in the process. All right. The Christian State Community Alliance, every now and then they have a fair at the Limerick Park, which is in Christian State as you're coming down. As you're coming down King Street there, just past the First Bank. And they have various vendors as well as folks who bring out books that they want to share, repurpose, sell, whatever the case may be. So keep that in mind. I believe down the road they're going to be doing something there also. Good person to know, Mary Dima, the president of that organization, if you haven't met her. And I'm sure there are a lot of people you're going to be meeting in the process, and some by chance.
Yeah, some by chance.
and
Fortunate chance.
And some by direction. Okay, so but I'm just glad that I was in the right place at the right time to be able to meet you and have this conversation. And when we think about books, a lot of times people think about spy thrillers and this type of stuff. Well, folks, I'm here to tell you that science fiction is alive and well and strong, and there are silly people and serious people like Doug Canton, he can be both at the same time, who enjoy science fiction. Right. Now, in terms of folks who have maybe inspired you, are there any people that you can point to that said that this person, kind of like said, well, hey, you like encourage you or otherwise, or someone that you would look at in terms of what they've done in writing that's been something you kind of maybe looked at, or is this one of those things where you just woke up one day and totally it just came from inside and blossomed?
Well, I'll say the story came from inside, but as far as someone who encourages me and supports me, that would be my husband. I dedicated my book to him, and I've always called him my knight in shining armor, because that is what he is. And he regularly puts me on track, where is your book, the next one? When is it going to come out? And he's excited now that he sees this having come to fruition. Because a lot of people say, well, I'm going to write a book. They get 2 chapters into it, and they don't know what they want to say. But I did, and he knew that. So he supported me the whole time and was very encouraging. And sometimes he needed to get a little tough. Well, you need to get back to reading, writing your book. And I'm telling him, well, I'm waiting for the inspiration again. But, and of course, there was my mom going, oh, you can do anything. You'll get the story out. And my dad. But as far as other writers, I had a college professor, Dr. Sharon George, and I took, 5 or 6 English courses with her. And the first time I met her, you're supposed to sit down in English 101, and you've got 1 page to write on and 1 page for scratch. And, give me an essay on this topic. 350 words. You got half an hour. So in 15 minutes, I'm done. And I turn in the 1 sheet. She says, well, where's your scratch paper? I said, well, it's blank. So I gave it to her, and it was blank, and she said, well, why don't you have any scratch? I said, because I knew what I wanted to say. And by the time I was done in 3 years, she said, I want to read your first book. I'm looking forward to that. And I thought, that's right. I want to write a book. And then it hadn't really come up much. I mean, I thought about books I wanted to write, but not quite. This one came up, and I thought, I have to write this. This happened for a reason. And it happened here for a reason, because you come to the islands, and your brain slows down to all the things that don't matter. You know, who's doing what they're wearing, what they have. It doesn't matter here. None of that matters here. What matters here is good people being good to other good people. And if someone needs help, you help them. And it's not a question of, well, should I help them? You just go in and do it because you know that they're not maybe expecting it, but they know that's what happens on this island. So your brain gets to relax and start thinking about the other important things. You know, your relationship with your family, your relationship with your God, if you have one, or your spirituality. What centers you? And when you get in touch with that, it's like your brain comes alive and you can think in ways that you hadn't thought before. And I think that was what happened when I got here, when I had that dream. My brain switched tracks and something else became important.
All right. Well, you know, you could.
So thank you, Virgin Islands.
You could be my neighbor any day. Okay, you could be my neighbor any day. All right, because you sound like you're part of the village. You just were made to be.
Oh, I love it
okay?
here. I love it here.
Good, fantastic. And anyhow, just in case you didn't notice, that was my little cue. That my question was my little cue to make sure that when you get home, the locks aren't changed. Okay, can't speak for the dogs, but you'll be warmly embraced for sure. All right, yeah. But it's been a pleasure, and we have to stay in touch.
Okay, yes.
Okay, and definitely this book signing will be on my list of things that I talk about in terms of upcoming things in the community.
Well, great, thank you.
And I really enjoy, and I'm thankful. And folks, just to give a little meat to this story here. This is the second time that I've met Nancy. The first time was inside of Caribbean Printing.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. Which I just happened to be there because I was helping a good friend of mine to change some artwork for Facebook that they had, and they need to get the logo from there. And I met Mike for Caribbean Printing many years ago. And then we just had no interaction since then. And I want to in terms of what you said about the place and you help people, Mike had just taken over Caribbean Printing, and he had a serious, horrendous problem with his network. And it turned out I literally gave him a piece of equipment that just instantly solved that problem. Okay, it replaced out the old one, put this other one in. Everything just worked. I had it there sitting there, so put it to good use. I did my good deed, and I went about my business and my life, and didn't have that much real cause to go in there. I mean, I've been in and out, like to grab a business card to give to somebody, that type of thing. So I just wanted to know if it was the same owners and if he remembered, just as a matter of conversation. That's how I happened to be there. Nice. And you were talking and what you were talking about, and then we got connected from that point to now. And so, folks, every day you walk down the street, every day you walk in a store, you see different faces, new faces, but you never know who those faces are until you talk with them. Yes. And it just takes off from there. It just takes off from there. Good people helping people, because when it comes right down to it, what is this world about for us? People. People, exactly. Exactly. Take the biggest, most successful business and factory, and you take out all the people, you have nothing. Okay? So, we're very thankful for the people of the Virgin Islands that make it what it is and all that it is. All right? And all you folks up there, just look on and envy, come down in February and April, the coldest times of the year, and take plenty of pictures, and then, you know, make everybody at home jealous. But hey, we're here, the good people of the Virgin Islands, the good people of St. Croix. I want to thank you again. And I look forward to us continuing the conversation because this is book 1
Yes.
of a sequel of books that I think that I'm going to enjoy reading.
Well, good. I expect you to give me a review on your show.
All right. Well, definitely. We can do that. And great things happen here. I got someone who talked about their book and their book signing, and I've got some people from France that now we're doing a technological hookup so that they
Great.
can do an interview about their book for folks in France.
Wonderful.
Right. So it's a small world.
It is.
It's a small world. And I think it was divine intervention that I was where I was when I was. Thank you again. All right.
Thank you very much.
Okay, fantastic. All right.